such a demanding agenda and before them to also do their part. And in any case, for peace building to be effective, the country will have to take ownership of the situation, and indeed also help. And by that I mean, for example, good governance. It will cost a little bit, but not necessarily. It's also a question of how the country is governed, and with some emphasis on good governance, that could also help. In fact, it could also help getting more aid, because I think that, seen from a donor point of view, when you see a country that is where good governance exists, then that in itself is attracted to even more aid. But I don't think there is an easy way out. I think the international community in the years ahead, and new challenges are coming, are obvious. If we are talking, for example, about climate change issues, the whole international aid discussion will have to change, and there has to be more commitment, and indeed it's to a certain extent already happening. Take, for example, the European Union countries. You're talking about 27 very rich, very important countries. They have at least made the initial pledge now, for example, to finally, as a group, get to 0.7% of GNP in official development assistance by 2015. A decision that was made a couple of years ago. A very important political decision. Of course, it has to be lived up to. But this is only a first step. More will be needed, and I don't think there is any way you can run away from that.
Thank you, Ambassador. And following your activities in the Burundi peace building process, I want to personally extend thanks to the government for that. My first question has to do with the establishment of the Peace Building Commission. At the beginning of your presentation, you indicated that the Peace Building Commission has but from the high-level dialogue, or the high-level panel that was being set up by the Secretary General. But reading the Boutros Ghali report of 1992 on Agenda for Peace, in his approach, his multidimensional approach to peace building, he actually had mentioned about peace building commission, and the main thrust of what is today the Peace Building Commission was being discussed as far back as 1980. Why, in your opinion, has it taken that long time to have the Peace Building Commission? The second question is, I am aware that most countries emerging from conflict organize or host donor conferences, which we just spoke about Burundi. Whereas in the case of Sierra Leone, which I know, they held a donor conference in 2005, and donor countries pledged a substantial amount of money. But it has taken a very long time for these donors to deliver on this pledge. What is the Peace Building Commission doing? And as coordinator of the country-specific meeting, what do you intend to do to ensure that these countries deliver on these pledges? Thank you.
On the first question, why did it take so long to have a peace-building commission established at the UN? I guess there just was not really enough political momentum about behind that very idea. Peace building was going on. It was being discussed at the time, as you mentioned. Everybody was doing their thing, and I think that. But over the last few years, we have had cases and countries again, relapsing the statistics that I mentioned, I think that over time, now was the time to do it, because I think it just something was wrong for this to happen. We have to deal with the situation. I think it was in 2005 it became clear to everybody that something had to be done. At least we'll try, and that's now what we are doing. Now, as regards to your second question on how do we make sure that donors live up to their pledges. This is an important issue, obviously, and I think personally that the Peace Building Commission will have an important role to play in this. And I mentioned that we are in the process of working out so-called integrated peace building strategy, and that is going to be a document that we are drawing up together with the governments both in Sierra Leone and in Burundi. And I think it will help us to, because in this document, if we will specify, we will demonstrate who is doing what now, what are the gaps, and there will be benchmarks and ways to monitor how things are going. So when we have donor conferences, we are preparing for one, as I mentioned, in Burundi in May, a so-called round table. I think we won't leave that issue. We'll revert to it, and it will be part of our agenda to monitor what happens. And I think that because this commission has been created, I think that donors who don't follow up their pledges, there will be additional international scrutiny on these issues following the establishment of the commission, which hopefully will result in a situation where pledges are indeed honored.
Could you give us some specifics as to what was behind Norway's decision not to join the European Union?
Well, complex issue. We had many. Of course, it became very close. It was almost a 50-50 situation. It was a 1% difference in the end. So the country is split on. It still is split on the issue. One reason why it happened the way it did is that Norway, before we had the referendum on full membership, had indeed negotiated an agreement with the European Union, which meant that we had full access to the internal market. Norway today is, in economic terms, and also in some other areas, almost like a full member. Norwegian businesses compete on equal terms in the EU countries. Free movement of labor. Polish workers, French workers can come to Norway, take jobs, benefit from our social security schemes, etc. And so that works very well. And had we not had in place that kind of system, I think that it would have been to say no to the EU would have been very serious. It probably wouldn't have been possible. That, combined with the fact that Norway is being the third largest petroleum exporter in the world, our economy is basically very, very sound and growing, and was that at the time. And so the economic independence of Norway in the world probably also contributed to the fact that people thought that, well, maybe it's not so important after all. And then there were some more sectoral interests, very skeptical. Our fisheries people were very skeptical. They were afraid that by entering the union, you would open the fishing banks to Spanish, Portuguese vessels, and similarly, Norwegian agriculture has been fairly highly subsidized because we are operating in a pretty difficult climate, and with a lot of subsidy, and farmers thought that entering the EU meant that they might have to forego some of their benefits. So, and then Norwegians traditionally have been a fairly independent-minded group of people. So there were a number of factors that probably contribute, but it came very close. It might come up again as an issue, though. Yeah.